Shalom, all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, double lines to the apostles of GMS. This is Amna Allah coming at you with another video. And in this video, I'm gonna be focusing on this right here. This is from the policetribune.com, and it says Florida governor. This is from November 11, 2020. Florida governor drafts anti-mob bill, which will allow shooting of looters. By Sandy Malone, November 11th, 2020. And basically, this website, Police Tribune, is basically like a people who are family members of like police officers, and they just have this website and they just inform people about different things that's going on in regards to legislation and regarding law enforcement and things of that nature. Tallahassee, Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Tuesday packed up his September pledge to crack down on rioters with anti-mob legislation that would allow armed citizens to shoot suspected looters and make participating in a riot a felony. Now, we all know when these riots occur, at least in regards to how the media portrays it, it portrays the rioters as being so-called black people, Israelites, so-called Negroes. So, when they talk about shooting rioters, who do you really think is going to be the primary victim of these shootings? So-called black people, because the media is painting the narrative that we are rioters. Therefore, if they see a black person, they're going to automatically assume that black person's a rioter, even though they may not be. That could lead to a lot of so-called black people being shot. Let me go back. The governor's proposed legislation would expand the state's stand your ground law by granting immunity to drivers who accidentally kill or injure protesters. The governor proposed legislation that was a pop-up. The governor proposed legislation that would expand the state's stand your ground law and grant immunity to drivers who accidentally kill or injure protesters blocking the roadway, Fox News reported. That's ridiculous. They're gonna grant what's immunity? Immunity. Okay, that's medical. That's a biological definition right there. Let's see. Legal immunity. This is from Wikipedia right there. It says, legal immunity or immunity from prosecution is a legal status wherein an individual or entity cannot be held liable for a violation of the law in order to facilitate societal aims that outweigh the value of imposing liability in such cases. So basically what legal immunity is when an individual or entity cannot be held liable or responsible for violation of the law. In other words, if a driver kills someone in a roadway, they're going to be looked at not being liable, not responsible, or in violation of the law, murder, or killing someone. In order to facilitate societal aims. What is the societal aim? When you facilitate something, you're making something easier. Like a point guard in basketball, their job is to facilitate the ball, to get their teammates open shots, to make it easier for them to score. In order to facilitate societal aims or make it easier to acquire societal aims. Now, what are they aiming for in society? To stop rioters, to stop looters. To facilitate societal aims that outweigh the value of imposing liability in such cases. In other words, achieving the societal aim, which would be stopping the rioters or looters, outweighs the value of the imposing liability. In other words, stopping the looters or the rioters, in this case, by granting drivers legal immunity if they hit them on a roadway, that outweighs the value of imposing that liability in such cases. In other words, that outweighs the value of actually making those people responsible, of imposing that liability or imposing that responsibility upon that particular driver. In other words, allowing these drivers to hit rioters and looters in a roadway and grant them immunity by doing so outweighs actually punishing them for the crime. Meaning the aim of stopping the rioters, the aim of stopping the looters by allowing drivers to hit them on roadways is far greater than actually punishing the drivers from doing so. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Okay? Letting them get away with it is greater than punishing them for it. Because the societal aim is to stop the looters, and they feel that allowing such a thing is necessary. The governor's proposed legislation. Oh, I read that already. It allows for vigilantes to justify their actions. What is a vigilante? A vigilante is This is from Merriam-Webster. A member of a volunteer committee organized to suppress and punish crime summarily. Like Batman listed as being a vigilante. Here's right here, J-Rank Law Pages Vigilantism. Top of your screen. Vigilantism. Taking the law into one's own hands and attempting to effect justice according to one's own understanding of right and wrong. Here's another one. Plainshumanities.unl.edu. Vigilantes are individuals who take the law into their own hands. Vigilante movements have often... Well, you got it. You get the gist of it. Vigilante is basically a person that takes the law into their own hands. And right here it says, Wiktionary vigilante, borrowed from Spanish vigilante, watchman, guard, because to be vigilant means to be aware, to watch. So that's basically what a vigilante is. A member of a volunteer committee that's organized to suppress and punish crime. And also people who are taking the law into their own hands. So they're allowing people to become vigilantes. Like Batman is always looked at as a vigilante. Like how Batman always used to go at it with Commissioner. Well, he kind of was like an unofficial union with Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon was the actual police commissioner, but Batman was the vigilante. He's taking the law into his own hands. Okay. It allows for vigilantes to justify their actions. Denise Georges, I believe it's Georges or Jorge's, I want to say Georges, a former Miami-Dade county prosecutor, said it also. And remember when remember a lot of people were rioting in Miami, not too long ago, a few months back. A former Miami-Dade, with the whole George Floyd situation, a former Miami-Dade county prosecutor said it also allows for death to be the punishment for a property crime. And that is cruel and unusual punishment. Right, so if a person is rioting, breaking in a window or something like that, and you're allowing these people to shoot these people, then that's cruel and unusual punishment. You're allowing somebody to die just for smashing a window because you think they're gonna steal something out of there. We cannot live in a lawless society where taking a life is done so casually and recklessly. Let's get something. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 1. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decree. Right, that's an unrighteous decree. That's an unrighteous decision or command made by someone in a position of authority. That's an unrighteous decree. And that right grievousness which they have prescribed. Right, that's something that's grievous that they have prescribed, that they have written beforehand. Because this is something that they just thought of 3 days ago or 2 days ago. This is obviously something that had to been in their minds already. Now they're choosing to put it in action. Now right now it's a bill. It hasn't not passed legislature. So it hasn't become a law. But it talks about it, So let's go back to that article. This is the time of Jacob's trouble that we're approaching. A time that there's never been. Okay? The proposed legislation expanded the list of forcible felonies under Florida's self-defense law, the Miami Herald reported. It would also justify a use of force against people who loot or engage in criminal mischief, causing the interruption or impairment of a business. It dangerously gives armed private citizens power to kill as they subjectively determine what constitutes criminal mischief. Now, something that's subjective is really something that's based upon feelings, not necessarily something that's based upon facts, like something that's objective. So it says it dangerously gives armed private citizens power to kill as they subjectively, or as they feel, determine what constitutes criminal mischief. So what they feel constitutes criminal mischief. Oh my gosh, a person is breaking into a car, I could shoot them. That's ridiculous. That interferes with the business. Former Miami-Dade prosecutor Aubrey Webb told the Miami Herald, someone graffitiing Black Lives Matter on a wall, urinating behind a dumpster, blocking an entrance, The Boston Tea Party members would have been lawfully shot under Florida's law by the British East India Company, Webb claimed. The draft bill defines looting as committing a burglary within 500 feet of a violent or disorderly assembly. So, in that draft bill, looting is defined as committing a burglary within 500 feet of a violent or disorderly assembly. So if you got a violent or disorderly assembly occurring, and someone is burglarizing something within 500 feet of that, that's considered a looting in that draft bill. It defines a violent or disorderly assembly as a gathering of 7 more people who substantially obstruct government functions or services, create immediate danger of damage to property or injury to persons, or deprive any person of a legal right or disturbs any person in the enjoyment of a legal right. So if 7 or more persons are substantially obstructing government functions, like they're creating immediate danger of damage to property or injury of persons, or depriving a person of a legal right, or disturbs any person in the enjoyment of a legal right, that's considered a disorderly assembly. Oh wow, there's 7 more people over there not allowing people to enjoy a legal right, and they cause an immediate danger of damage to property or injury of persons. That's excuse me, a violent or disorderly assembly. And if you're looting something, if you're burglarizing something within 500 feet of that, that's considered looting. The proposed anti-mob legislation would also enhance penalties for those involved in violent or disorderly assemblies and make blocking traffic during a protest a felony, the Miami Herald reported. Okay? Further, under the proposed bill, those arrested for rioting could no longer be released on bail or bond ahead of their first court hearing in order to ensure the full participation of the prosecutors and the protection of the public, the Miami Herald reported. How much more do we got? Not too much. Right? Read some more. Any government employee convicted of rioting will be fired, and non-government employees will be ineligible for reemployment assistance benefits, according to the draft. The governor's administration attorneys circulated a version of the proposed measure entitled Anti-Mob Legislation Draft to members of the Senate Committee on Criminal Justice and the House Judiciary Committee, the Miami Herald reported. Critics have said DeSantis' crackdown mirrored President Donald Trump's campaign rhetoric that won him the Sunshine State. It's clear that the Trump beauty pageant is still going on with the governors and senators who all want to be the next Trump, and the governor is clearly a very good contestant. Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gilbert complained to the Miami Herald. Gilbert, a former federal prosecutor and Democratic state legislature, has been a vocal critic of the Stand Your Ground law since it was passed 15 years ago. He said the governor's anti-mob bill sounded like an invitation to incite violence, according to the Miami Herald. Some critics have called the legislation redundant and said the important issues included in it are already addressed by existing Florida laws. So you already have existing Florida laws that address things similar to this anti-mob draft bill, but they want to make this thing a law. Phil Reisenstein, a Miami defense attorney, said the proposal was clearly written with a political bent in response to the violent riots that raged across the country in the wake of George Floyd's death in the custody of Minneapolis police, the Miami Herald reported. See? So they're aware that the violent riots across the country were in the wake of George Floyd's death, so they're just waiting for the next time this occurs. The laws existing in Florida have been another George Floyd type event occurs. The laws existing in Florida have been able to address social situations in the past. These laws address no gaps in the current laws. So these laws basically cover everything. Reisenstein said, it's bad policy to enact criminal statutes for transient political issues. Time and money are better spent in addressing the underlying cause of the unrest. But despite criticism, right. So time and money are better spent addressing the underlying cause of the unrest. So if people are rioting across the country, it's easier to more time and money to be spent on the underlying cause of the arrest. What caused the arrest? Prevent that. And if you can prevent what caused the arrest, and therefore you can prevent the riots, which are a result of these types of actions between police officers and citizens, particularly black people. But despite criticism from the left, the measure has a high likelihood of success with Republican lawmakers, the Miami Herald reported. See that? So it has a high likelihood of success. Okay? Florida State Senate President-elect Walton Simpson was interested in taking a look at the issue, but hasn't made any plans for it yet, according to the Senate spokesman, Kate Abetta. Sarasota Republican State Senator Joe Grudis, who is also chair of the Florida GOP, said DeSantis has the right idea with the proposed measure, the Miami Herald reporter. See that? Now people saying, the senators saying, oh, this guy got the right idea. See that? Grudis said he will definitely be supporting it however I can. Psalms 94:20, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law? So shall the throne of iniquity, or the rulership of iniquity, the rulership of sin have fellowship with thee, or union with thee, or allegiance with thee, that frameth mischief by law? Of course not. If this rulership frameth mischief or creates mischief by law, you're not supposed to have fellowship with it, union with it, allegiance with it. Of course not. You should be against it. They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. It's talking about the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's what the so-called white man is doing. Esau planning to kill you. Let's go back. But the Lord is my defense, and my power, or my God is the rock of my refuge. So we gotta depend. So we have to depend on the Most High. I had to say that again. I paused the video. Let's go back. Now, as we was reading, it said the state senator Sarasota, which is the Sarasota city in Florida, Republican state senator Joe Grudis, he said this governor had the right idea, and he said he would support however he can. And in order for this to become a law, gotta pass through the Senate. So he already got one right there that's rocking with him, or that's on his side, if you will. The DeSantis legislation also calls for the state to withhold funding from local governments that have defunded their police department. So any local government that has defunded its police department, they can withhold funding from them. It will punish counties and municipalities that have made disproportionate funding reductions to law enforcement agency budgets and require municipalities to certify they haven't done so. So now they basically want to punish those that have police departments that have defunded. Because basically they don't like the fact that, oh, you want to defund the police and basically allow this type of stuff to occur. Because basically if you defund the police, then how are the police going to actually have the proper equipment and training to allow the police department to be able to tackle these type of riots? So basically they don't agree with that, so this is their way of punishing them. The certification must include a statement that any reduction in funding or proposed funding is a result of reduced revenue collection and is proportionate to the reduction in your revenue. The proposed legislation read. So basically, if they have any reduction going on, they have to prove that reduction is due to reduced revenue collection, and it has to be proportionate with the reduction of that revenue. So you have to prove that the the funding has been reduced due to reduced revenue collection, and that reduced revenue collection has to be proportionate to the amount of revenue it decreased by. So you can't say, oh, we don't have that much funding. Well, you got to prove why you don't have much funding, and you got to prove that it's due to reduced revenue collection, and the amount that you've been defunded by has to equal the amount of reduced revenue collection. Okay, so they got to prove that they're defunded due to lack of revenue collection, and the amount that their fund has been reduced by has to equate to that amount. Okay. It explained that budget cuts had to remain within 3 percentage points of the percentage decrease in total revenue from the previous fiscal year to the current fiscal year to be considered proportionate, the Miami Herald reported. So then I'm going to close. I'm going to say, scripture tell you in the book of 2nd Esdras, they're going to be like mad men sparing none. Let me get that real quick. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verse 71. It's talking about the time of Jacob's trouble. It says, verse 71, they shall be like madmen sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So that's what they're going to be doing, man. They hope to get the elected nation of Israel in the midst of that. To prevent the Lord coming back and delivering them. That way they don't got to worry about their kingdom falling in the Lord's kingdom, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, setting up his kingdom, the kingdom of heaven on earth. This is Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, the children of Israel. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. So a time of trouble is going to come. And a time of trouble that occurs It's going to be like a time of trouble that has never occurred up until that time. So at no point in time in the history of planet Earth is there going to be a time similar to the time that's going to come. And you can read more about this in the book of Jeremiah 30:7. It speaks about the same thing, but it mentions the time of Jacob's trouble. This is the same thing. Such as was never since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that same time that people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. That's talking about the elect. Jeremiah 30:7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now somebody say, oh no, that's talking about back at that time. No, you can't say that. Because there have been events that have occurred that have been far more tumultuous, far more troublesome than times past. For example, World War II, when the two atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were worse than any war that occurred during the time period of ancient Babylon, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, or Persia, because they didn't even have nuclear weapons back then. So we know that this time of Jacob's trouble has not yet happened. But it said he shall be saved out of it. The elect of Israel will be saved out of it. Why? Because the Lord said, the scripture tell you in the book of Matthew, the Lord said what? Matthew was the 24th chapter. The Lord said, for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Look at that real quick and I'm going to close. Matthew chapter 24, verse 22. And except those days should be shortened. In fact, Matthew 24:21, here's the proof. But then shall be great tribulation, such as not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Doesn't that line up with Daniel 12th chapter? In the first verse where it says, Michael going to stand up for his people, and it's going to be a time of trouble that has not been to that same time. Jeremiah 30:7 says the last time of Jacob trouble. It's the time where there has never been. Says the same thing here, Matthew 24:22, 21st verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So it's talking about the time of Jacob trouble, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. For the elect's sake, who's the elect? Israel. Why? Because the scripture tell you in Jeremiah 30:7, it's the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Meaning Jacob's going to be saved out of it, because Jacob is the elect to the nation of Israel. That shows that the elect is only of Israel. So that I'm going to close. I'm going to say all praise, because I'm going to say all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shah, double line to the apostles, GMS, Yahweh Shemel Shah, Bashim Rakakadash. All the brothers learned something with that. I'm going to close. Shalom.